You ever have one of those mornings where you just know the moment you hear that knock that absolutely nothing good is waiting on the other side of that door? Yeah, that was me. I'd barely even taken my first sip of coffee. There it was again. Bam, bam, bam. Like someone trying to wake up the dead, or maybe just trying to raise some hell. I put the mug down, tried to shake off that little voice inside saying, "Brace yourself, buddy," and wandered to the door. Forget a friendly neighbor with a pie, nope. Through the peephole, all I saw was a woman who looked like she'd spent her whole life preparing for this exact confrontation. Clipboard clutched, tight mouth drawn in a straight line, eyes that could freeze milk. I crack the door just to crack, and she doesn't even wait for hello. She goes, "I know exactly what you're doing here, and it stops today." That's it. Her name tag reads Margaret Thornberry, HOA president. She might as well have knighted herself with that title the way she was swinging it around. I mean, you ever met someone who could weaponize a name tag that was Margaret? So I try to keep it together, give her my best courtroom voice. Calm, measured, the kind I used back when I handled real problems, not whatever this was. "Can I help you?" I ask, and I swear she looks personally offended. I dare to speak. "Don't play dumb with me. This property's been vacant for 6 months. You can't just break in and squat here. I've already called the police." Well, that got my attention. I mean, sure, I'd inherited the place, but breaking and entering, I raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding." But she cuts me off, jabbing that pen at me like it's a switchblade. "Save it for the authorities. I have photographic evidence of you trespassing." The Maplewood Estates HOA has zero tolerance for criminals. And right on cue, I hear sirens. Swear to God, the whole thing felt like a bad sitcom. Car pulls up and out steps Deputy Martinez, who I actually know from my years at the courthouse. He looks at me, blinks, and tips his hat. "Your Honor, I didn't know you'd moved into the neighborhood. Everything all right here?" Margaret's clipboard hits the porch with a clang. For a second, she looks like a fish gasping for air, her mouth opening and closing, but nothing coming out. The best part. This whole drama. Well, it started 3 weeks earlier when I inherited this so-called vacation home from my late Aunt Eleanor. After 20 years as a lawyer and just landing a spot as a circuit court judge, all I wanted was a break, a little peace and quiet, write that legal thriller I'd been daydreaming about. Maybe walk in the woods, maybe just sleep in. Maplewood Estates sounded perfect. Gated 45 minutes outside the city trees, everywhere peace and quiet. The plan: stay under the radar, keep to myself. After years of having every move picked apart in court, the anonymity felt almost decadent. So I stashed my plain sedan in the garage, skipped the meet and greets, and tried to just breathe. Turns out that was the wrong move. Because Maplewood Estates doesn't just have neighbors, it has Margaret Thornberry. And Margaret believes running the HOA means you need to know everything about everyone. The woman runs the place like it's a private kingdom. Grass has to be cut to 2.5 inches, and if your trash can is out a minute too early, that's a formal citation, buddy. I'll admit I didn't fill out the HOA paperwork right away. I was grieving, sorting out Aunt Eleanor's stuff and just trying to find my footing. But Margaret? In her mind, I was already public enemy number 1. First offense, she spotted my out-of-state plates. Second offense, tinted windows. Third, not attending her community wellness checks, which is Margaret speak for snooping patrol. She started watching me, taking notes, snapping photos like she was on some undercover mission. Within a week, she'd assembled an evidence binder with color-coded tabs, illegal occupation at 427 Oak Ridge Drive. She shared her intel with Janet Morris, her right-hand woman, retired librarian, endless free time, big fan of conspiracies. Soon the two of them had half the block convinced I was either running drugs or plotting to destroy property values by, buying cheap toilet paper. The rumors got weirder. Margaret told anyone who'd listen that man arrives at odd hours, never comes to meetings, and I've never seen him get mail. Classic squatter behavior. Janet nodded like she'd cracked some great mystery. I was in my house watching court dramas and eating takeout, but outside I was apparently a criminal mastermind. Margaret's big push came when she caught a delivery truck dropping off a couch. He's not just squatting, he's settling in. If we don't act now, he'll claim squatters' rights. So she files an official complaint with herself since she's HOA president. She calls an emergency meeting, whips up everyone into a frenzy, and the vote's unanimous. Get rid of the squatter. Not that anyone had actually met me. The real circus came that Saturday morning. Margaret, Janet, and 3 others, phones out, recording all ready for prime time. I opened the door in old jeans and my ragged law school t-shirt, just wanting to finish my coffee. Margaret points at me like she's solving a murder. Sir, you are illegally occupying these premises. Provide proof of ownership or vacate immediately. I keep my voice level. Ma'am, I don't have to show you anything. This is private property. That was apparently the last straw. She shouts, that's exactly what a criminal would say. I knew Eleanor Hartman. She'd never rent to someone like you. Now you want to hear the best part? She says, someone like you and I have to laugh. What does that even mean? I almost told her Eleanor was my aunt, and my non-existent job is sending people to prison. Instead, I just shut the door and went back to my breakfast. Of course, that wasn't the end. Margaret called the police, claiming I'd threatened her. Total fiction. When that didn't work, she went nuclear, a civil lawsuit. She wanted an emergency injunction to evict me plus $50,000 for emotional distress. Her lawyer, bless him, didn't bother with basic facts, didn't even check who actually owned the place. Never Googled my name. If he had, he could have saved everyone a lot of embarrassment. The case lands in my own courthouse universe. Has a sense of humor, right? Judge Patricia, my friend, was out at a conference, so I covered her docket. I probably should have recused myself, but after 3 weeks of being stalked and slandered, I figured I'd earned a front row seat to the fallout. That Thursday, the courtroom's packed. Margaret's got her people lined up ready to see me dragged out in handcuffs. She's at the plaintiff's table, dressed to the nines, looking like she's about to take over Wall Street. Her attorney stands up, big speech about community integrity and threats to safety. I let him finish, then I say, has your client actually confirmed who owns the property? He stammers, well, the defendant refused to provide documentation. I cut him off. That's not what I asked. Did you check public records? Do any real investigation? He fidgets, mumbles something about photographic evidence. I say, pictures of my car are evidence of what exactly? Margaret can't help herself. She stands up and goes, Your Honor, I know what I saw. This man is an imposter. He's probably unemployed. I demand justice. Now here comes the twist, because in that moment she finally sees me. Really sees me. You can watch it hit her like a cold shower. She goes pale. Her mouth opens, but she can't find a single word. I say, Mrs. Thornberry, care to explain to the court why you've spent the past 3 weeks stalking, harassing, and slandering a sitting circuit court judge? The room goes dead silent, just this little ripple of, oh my God, spreading through the gallery. Her attorney looks like he wants to crawl under the table. Margaret grabs the edge of the desk, trying not to faint. I didn't know, Your Honor. I had no idea. I keep my voice steady. Ignorance doesn't excuse harassment, false police reports, or defamation. You never asked my name, never tried to introduce yourself. You went straight to intimidation. Her lawyer starts waving the white flag. Perhaps, Your Honor, we can dismiss. No, I say. We're past that. Mrs. Thornberry filed a false police report, put flyers around the neighborhood labeling me a criminal, trespassed on my property, wasted this court's time, all out of her own fear and bias. I turned to the clerk. Please enter into the record I'm filing counterclaims for harassment, defamation, trespassing, and submitting a false police report, and refer this to the State Bar for counsel's negligence. Margaret's lawyer turns green. Your Honor, surely. In addition, I go on, Mrs. Thornberry will cover all court costs, my legal fees, and $10,000 in punitive damages to the local Fair Housing Alliance. Margaret lets out this little shriek. Her whole act just falls apart. I ask, or would you prefer criminal prosecution for the false report? The penalty, 6 months jail plus fines. Margaret collapses into her chair, all the fight gone. Court adjourned. Bang of the gavel, little extra oomph for my own satisfaction. As the bailiff helps Margaret out, I overhear her whisper to her lawyer, how much is this going to cost me? He just shakes his head. Probably 30 grand, and that's if you're lucky. 3 weeks of playing detective, spreading gossip, whipping everyone into a panic, and for what? 1 lawsuit, a mountain of debt, and her reputation in tatters. That's karma. That's justice. Now here's the thing, I wish I could say that's where it ends. But let's be real, every neighborhood has a Margaret. Someone who thinks a clipboard gives them power. Someone who's so desperate to keep order, they lose sight of decency, of kindness, of plain old common sense. You know what I mean? Sometimes the greatest threat to peace and order isn't the outsider. It's the self-appointed guardian at the gate. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line between protecting your community and crossing over into paranoia, even cruelty? Is it ever justified to go after someone just because they don't fit your idea of normal? Drop your thoughts below. Ever run into your own Margaret? What would you have done differently? Let's hear your stories because trust me, we all have one.